guys and girls, and welcome to episode 93 of the FReality Podcast. This is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show, live streamed every Saturday on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch. You can tune into the show live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, 12 midday in central US. You can also check out the audio version, which is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and on Anchor. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or smash that like button because it would really help us out. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback during the show, please put them in the chat. We'll try and answer as many questions as we can. Now it's time for me to introduce you to the team. First up, this guy is always locked and loaded with his force tube. No, it's not John Rambo, it's John Zimbo. Of course, it's legendary VR streamer ZimTok5.
Why, thanks, Mike. Zimbo.
John Zimbo.
I kind of feel like that was a film already. Am I wrong? Is it a thing that was already there once? I think it might have been.
Zimbo, First Blood. You never seen that movie?
I sadly have not seen Zimbo, First Blood. What happens in it, Mike?
He sets lots of traps, kills lots of bad guys, saves the day, gets to the chopper.
Does he get the girl?
Always. Always.
Okay.
Zimbo never gets.
What? Good week. Bumpy start today. Thank you, everyone, for bearing with us the extra 3 minutes. Other than that, good to go. Let's make it happen.
Nice. Good to hear it. Good to hear it. This next guy, he's no longer famous for being a VR YouTuber, now forever known as the guy that Dr. Disrespect said had a bad shirt at E3 this week. It's Nathy, live from LA. How you doing, dude? You all right?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Besides that one thing that happened.
It was the best thing I've seen all week.
That was so good.
It was brilliant.
I never asked for a photo, but I saw him. I was like, wow,
yeah, sure.
Dude, he's so tall. Gotta take a photo with him. Plus, I mean, Twitch. How many Twitch celebrities do you really spot? And it's like, I just gotta do it. But this is even better than having a photo.
Oh yeah, you're famous now.
Oh. Yes.
For those that don't know, basically legendary Twitch streamer Dr. Disrespect, super famous on Twitch, was walking along the show floor at E3, and he was obviously streaming IRL at the same time. And Nathy asked him for a photo during the stream, and he just basically roasted him and said, "Not with that shirt, I'm not taking a picture with him." And then that little clip was then shared on Twitter, right? And it kind of was doing super well. So, and you were the first one in that clip as well. So it was great.
That's true. It's because, he went into the bathroom later on, just a couple of minutes later, and then he got banned, right? So that's why people searched back on it, and that's why I got so many messages like, "Hey, haha, it's Nathy asking for a picture." But I was wearing a Tesla shirt, and apparently he doesn't like electric cars. So hey,
Not a fan. It's not as what is it, Lamborghini Diablo? So
Well, soon he can't even drive his Lamborghini on the road anymore. So yeah, good luck with that.
True. Ooh, roast. I feel the roast coming here.
Diss tracks incoming. So next up, this one's always teaching us about the science behind our love for virtual reality. It's my Belgian brother from another mother. It's of course the rowdy guy. How you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm doing perfectly fine, man. I was kind of wondering what kind of intro you had for me this week because I haven't been doing that much on YouTube, but you always find the right ones, right?
Well, I'm glad to hear that, someone's having a break.
Yeah.
Someone's getting some rest.
A little break from YouTube. I mean, I'm still doing stuff on it, but I haven't made a video. Yeah.
But you're good.
I'm doing all right.
Okay. So last but by no means least, myself, the host of the show, Mike from Virtual Reality Oasis. We've got a busy show for you today. Some of the highlights include Nathy will be giving us his hands-on impressions of some of the hottest VR games from E3 this week. We're going to be giving you our thoughts on the Oculus Quest store, Rejections. This has been all over Reddit and Twitter, so we thought we'd discuss this one. Zim's going to give you the lowdown on the releases to look forward to next week. And also HTC are hinting at some news coming soon about the HTC Vive Cosmos. So very interesting show indeed. But let's find out what everyone's been up to this week and their highlight of the week. And I think we're going to exclude Nathy from this one because we're going to talk about all his highlights at the end of the video. So let's pass it over to Zim first. What have you been up to, dude?
So a lot of, as you said, I mean, a lot of what I've been doing this week is shooting stuff. So playing with my Force Tube and just getting to do that. You enticed me a couple of weeks back, Mike, when you covered it off and kind of made the comment that with the controllers and oriented in the right way, like tracking's actually fine. Like that I can reiterate as well. It's very rare that I have any problems actually, and I'm surprised at that, given my initial kind of introduction to the whole thing. But the game I want to highlight is one that none of you probably have ever played, and is a PSVR game, which I casted this week, and people were like, what the hell is this? Who here knows that there is a Final Fantasy game for PlayStation made specifically for VR? You guys know that?
Fishing one, you mean?
The fishing one! And so it's, for those who don't know, it's called Monster of the Deep, Final Fantasy 15. There is driving in a car, there's fishing, there's chocobos. Like, you literally walk out on some rocks, look right, and you're like, look left, and like, that's a giant chocobo right there. Feathers and everything, beautifully animated. Like, the polish in this game is like a AA title. I won't say AAA, but AA. And having looked back at the at what this was actually the first ever VR game by Square Enix. Like, they had not done anything else, and it started off as a wave-based shooter, like, and then they converted it after having gotten it rejected from the panel to turn it into a fishing game with some kind of real-world elements. There's some nice bits to it, and then all of a sudden, in the middle of this like calm fishing game, which you'd expect from like a normal kind of fishing experience, you have demon fish. Like, so the coolest thing though that I didn't know until playing this 2 days ago was in the game you can take a picture with, you can hold your fish up, take a picture with it with a kind of in-game virtual camera and ping it out to social media and send it to your friends on the PlayStation Network and stuff. And it looks great. It looks really fantastic. But that doesn't make up for the fact that there are shirtless Japanese dudes totally overexcited, camping out in tents by the water, who are kind of like high-fiving you, still shirtless, showing their abs in leather pants. It's a very weird game. It's very Japanese.
Is it just because you were sort of jealous of their physiques that you were upset about it? Because had it been like maybe female characters shirtless by the lake, I think you would have been okay with it, right?
I probably would have been okay with that. Actually, there's some eye candy that they've jammed into the game as well. So it is kind of a typical Japanese game if it wasn't a fishing game. It's weird. So if you are a PSVR fan, you can get that for like 10 quid or something.
It's a paid one. I thought it was free the way you're describing it.
No, there's actually a load of content. Like, I haven't even gotten close to finishing it. You can unlock all kinds of different. It's like there's a full-on proper fishing game with fish that are beautifully animated. You can get tiny ones and big ones. You're holding them like as if you were holding a salmon you just caught out of an Alaskan river. And then demon fish that jump at you and try to murder you. So, and then you kill them, and they unfortunately explode in midair. That's kind of a big kind of anticlimactic finale, but that's what I spent my week doing, playing around with demon fish.
So I have a question about this one.
Yeah.
So how does this compare to like Bait, for example, which is a lot of fun fishing game?
It's a little bit more skilled actually than Bait, I would say, because Bait's kind of pretty relaxed. Like, you can sit there like with your virtual and a real can of beer and be like, one-handing it to like catch fish, and then you reel them in. It's a very similar mechanic. So you cast, you reel, you catch, put it in a bucket, you get a score for something, you keep going. And in this one, you kind of like, you get to a particular area, and then you do teleport locomotion or smooth locomotion to like walk out to the right bits of the rocks. So it's a bit like, I'm trying to remember this other kind of fishing sim game that we've had before, where only specific areas have fish that you can get. So you've kind of got to find where the fish are, cast correctly. You've also got a sonar thing which you can kick off, and it'll show you kind of where the fish are. So comparing to Bait, I'd say it's less arcadey, but it's still an arcade experience, I would say, and the visuals are better. Like, it's a really good looking game.
We got some info from the chat as well. Apparently, the very first Square Enix game is actually called Million Arthur VR. So apparently they've made something else as well.
That's not
never heard of that one either. So what was this fishing game called again, Tim?
So it's Monster of the Deep, Final Fantasy 15. And
How bizarre!
I will challenge that, whatever they said about the VR bit, because I've seen that in a couple of places on the web, but I'll have to go look it up, because the other name of that game I've never seen.
Yeah. You don't remember the E3 announcement of the Final Fantasy game?
Which one?
I think they announced it on E3 a couple of years ago. or at some kind of like a conference show. I thought it was E3, not entirely sure, but I was like super excited because I'm like a proper Final Fantasy fan, and they announced it as like.
No, that's what this is. So this started off as it was going to be like kind of like what Nintendo's done was a bolt-on bit to an existing Final Fantasy. So it was going to be a part of Final Fantasy 15, a VR portion, and then the board nixed it because you'd have to wear a headset for a couple hours to see the VR bits in the game. Like that was so, and then it transmutated into this thing, which is really weird, but it's got a great polish.
The video of what it was going to be first.
I've got to see that. I don't think I've seen it.
That shooting with pistols. Yeah, it's still on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about you then, Rowdy? I know you've been taking a week off, but have you been playing anything as well? Or?
I still played. I still played like the usual things that I play. Like I played some Pavlov TTT. Had a great time once again. We'll talk a little bit about it later on as well, probably. So I won't tell too much. But I played on the Oculus Rift. I still think it's like one of the most hilarious experiences that you can have in virtual reality, especially if you get like a good group going with like some chatty people. Like games like that got like so hilariously funny because everyone is playing for themselves, but like you have to work together in some kind of way. You have to start trusting people, and that like gives like so much awesome scenarios. For the people who don't know, TTT stands for Trouble in Traitor Town or Trouble in Terrorist Town, and you have a group of traitors, you have a group of civilians, and the job of the civilians is of course to kill all the traitors, and the traitors need to kill all the civilians. And you also have one detective who has like special abilities, like for example he can do a limited amount of tests on people to see if they're a civilian, if they're a traitor. But yeah, it's so much fun. If you get a couple of friends going in there or just some chatty people, it's hilarious, absolutely hilarious.
And is this a user-created game mode in Pavlov?
Well, the maps that you're playing, they're mostly custom-made, so they're all made by users. But I think that the game mode itself is either a mod or it's modded into it. So right. I'm not sure how that works, but you have certain maps that need to be not all. You can't play, for example, all maps in TTT. There's only a limited amount of maps that you can play in the
specific maps. I still haven't tried it, but I took Rowdy up on his point that Pavlov is like such a solid game. I need to play some TTT with you one of these days.
Even if you don't like shooters, because it's so much more than just a shooter, just because of these kind of game modes. Because you don't need skill whatsoever in TTT. Like you don't need to know how to shoot a gun. You just need to know how to betray people, and you need to make sure that you're the one who's being trusted. Like it's so much fun.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about Pavlov more later on in relation to the Oculus Quest as well. But yeah, like my highlight of the week this week, it wasn't a game. I got to try out the HP Reverb, actually. Yeah, I got to try out the AR VR World Summit in London because HP had a stand there, and they were showing off the HP Reverb along with their range of like VR backpack PCs.
Yep.
And it was like, the event was business focused. It wasn't really anything to do with gaming, but I thought it would be a good opportunity to try the headset. The only other sort of interesting VR stuff they had at this event was like they had a training setup for like emergency responders. So a bit like what we talked about previously on the show where, the NYPD were training for active shooter scenarios using VR. They had sort of little demo stations like that for single people to try like a police, fire, and ambulance thing to sort of feel what it'd be like responding to an incident for the first time. So that was a big area within the VR area, which was relatively small in relation to the rest of the show. But let's talk about the Reverb because I got to try out a few different demos. One was like a health and safety demo, which was like working at heights, which was a bit strange. Obviously, this is a business event, not a gaming event. And then there was like a military plane demonstration, which again was a bit strange.
Wait, working at heights, was this like the side of a mountain, or was it like Ricky's plank experience and like Samantha's down at the end of the plank and you've got to help her out?
So basically it's a health and safety thing. So it's all about like selecting your gear, like a hard hat and a harness, and then clipping onto a ladder, then climbing the ladder, being on a flat roof. And then you actually fall off the flat roof and then you're hanging, and then you use your safety harness to lower yourself to the ground. So it's actually quite intense, I thought, especially if someone's never tried VR before, because falling off a roof is never fun, even in VR. So that was a bit strange. But in terms of the actual hardware itself, The one thing I was really surprised about when I first actually got hands-on with the headset is that it feels surprisingly light. And I don't know if that's because I've been using the Quest a lot and it's a little bit heavier than other headsets, obviously, because everything's built into the headset. And actually, when I got home, I looked up the specs, and it weighs 498 grams, and the Quest weighs 571 grams. Yeah. So it's actually, the Reverb is actually slightly heavier than the original Rift. So I don't know why it felt so light, but for some reason, when you hold it, it feels light. I don't know if Nathan found the same thing when you got hands-on with it for the first time.
I think it feels light because of the strap. It's a very solid strap. I think it's one of the best ones out there.
Yeah, you're right. And to touch on that, basically, it looks like an original Rift when you look at it. You know, if you've never seen a Reverb before, it's basically got that baseball cap style design with over-ear headphones, just like the original Rift had. But the big benefit of this headset, of course, is the resolution. It runs 2160 by 2160 pixels per eye, which is really nice. And you know, I could only get a sense for that resolution in the Cliff House area because that was the only place that it was running natively at that resolution. The demos that they were showing me were actually upscaled to run that resolution, so it wasn't really a true test. But everything looked really sharp in the Cliff House. It looked really nice. You know, screen door effect, if you really look for it, you can see it, you know, just like any headset that we've tried so far. Yep. If you look for it, you can see it. But of course, you know, if you're just immersed into an experience, then you don't really care, and you just enjoy the fact that the visuals are a little bit crisper and sharper than you're probably used to. The headset, what was that?
I feel a butt coming.
Yeah, exactly.
There is some butts, not those kind of butts, but yeah, there is some butts. But it has a fixed IPD, so same as the Rift S. So it has software-based adjustment. And I think generally from the sort of community feedback that we've seen about the Rift S, that lower IPDs like mine, like 59, 60, you can get away with it, and it's okay. Obviously, the sweet spot is 64. You know, if you're 64 IPD, you're in the perfect spot like Zim. But what we have found is that if you've got a higher IPD, like in the 70s, then you could be having issues with headsets with fixed IPDs like the Rift S or the Reverb. So just be aware of that. If you're not sure what it is, maybe it's worth getting it measured before you invest in a headset like that.
What kind of issues do you mean, Mike? When someone's at a high IPD and they're using this fixed IPD headset, like what will they experience? Things are just a bit blurry?
Bit blurry, and things will feel a little bit off.
Yeah.
And that can be quite uncomfortable.
Yeah, usually you get that if you've demoed to people and then you forget that you've demoed to people and they've changed your IPD, or or like my daughter will be like, "What's this button do?" and she just slides it around, and then you go in and you're like, "I don't feel quite right. What's wrong with this?" Okay, got it.
Right. So some other things that I really liked is that it has a removable Velcro face pad. So it's almost like got a VR cover built into it, which is super smart. It's got a nose flap to block out the light at the bottom, which was good. Built-in headphones, like I said before. The thing I didn't like was the cable connection right at the back of your head. We mentioned this on the show previously. Nathan wasn't. I think you were a bit unsure whether it was a prototype thing or.
But it's still there. Yeah.
It's still there. It's part of the final design, and it's like a proprietary connector right at the very back of your head. And when I asked about it, I said, "It's a strange move to put a connector there." And they said, "Well, we sell a small cable that connects to our backpack. And that's why we do it." And really, their biggest client for this headset is location-based VR experiences and businesses that would probably want to use a VR backpack in conjunction with this headset. But obviously, you know, from my perspective, I was just interested in gaming, so I actually asked them to fire up Space Pirate Trainer, which wasn't one of the demos that they were showing on the show floor, but they kindly downloaded it for me. And it was funny because the interest in the Reverb, as soon as I started playing the game, apparently I had a little crowd gathering around watching me play. Before that, they weren't interested in, like, you know, the health and safety stuff. So yeah, you know, it looked great, but again, Space Pirate Trainer was being upscaled. But I think the issue is, you know, it's still Windows MR tracking, still Windows MR controllers, which, you know, the controllers really suck in my opinion. The tracking is okay, but you know, from the Rift S now, we've got a bigger tracking volume on that. So I was kind of used to that, but I didn't get to test it really to its limits. But the controllers are really bad because they just burn through batteries so quickly. Because essentially, like, they're like two torches in your hands with the light tracking. The lights.
I mean, you kind of seem like you're a little bit gutted by the experience. I mean, this is your first time with the Reverb, right? So it sounds like it's not too amazing.
So to summarize, basically, I would say if you're a sim enthusiast, racing is your bag, flight sims are your bag, this is probably the headset for you. You know, if you've been on the fence about a Pimax or, you know, a Samsung Odyssey, I think this is definitely a headset to add to your lineup, because I think with the higher resolution, you're going to get the best possible display in games, and you don't really care about the tracking, you don't really care about the controls because you've got a HOTAS or a steering wheel setup. Yeah. So I think you know, if you're a sim enthusiast, definitely consider this headset. For me, I just want a bit more time with it, because it was like, you know, on the show floor, it's not ideal. I only had like 10-15 minutes with it. I've asked HP to see if they'll send me one to review properly on the channel, but I'm waiting to hear back about that. But yeah, it was just interesting to try it on. Of course, the resolution's super nice. We'll talk more about the HTC Vive Cosmos, which apparently might have a similar display. So we might get the benefit of the display with better controllers and better tracking with that headset. So, you know, we'll talk more about that in a little bit. So that's okay. Sort of my experience with the Reverb, really.
Was there anything else that conference that you went to that was interesting in the VR realm? Very
few VR bits and pieces there other than that.
Okay.
First responder thing. So not really.
You went in like a contract killer and you knew your target.
Exactly. Although I did get to meet Alex from Low Spec Gamer, and we got to hang out and chat and have lunch. So he's a really cool dude. Runs a channel that's basically all about running games on the lowest possible hardware. So he was really cool. Yeah. So let's move into the quick news then. But before we do that, let's say thank you to the sponsor of this episode of the FReality podcast, which is CodeSync, with their latest game called Shadowpoint. Now, Shadowpoint is a mysterious, story-driven puzzle game where you take the role of Alex Burkett, trying to uncover the mystery of a missing schoolgirl called Lorna McCabe, who vanished from Shadowpoint Observatory 12 years ago. Now, you're guided by the voice of Edgar Mansfield, who is narrated by the legend that is Sir Patrick Stewart, and you have to solve these mind-bending puzzles to uncover the truth. You can check out Shadowpoint. It's available on Oculus Rift and Oculus Quest, and there's a link to it in the description down below. And I think, you know, CodeSync have been an amazing sponsor, and I'm super grateful for them sponsoring the show, because when you have a sponsor that has a game of that caliber, it's very easy to recommend it as a game. I've been playing it a lot this week, actually, in my downtime. Because it's a game that I really want to finish, and I think I'm about over halfway through now.
Me too.
And okay, so you might understand what I'm talking about here. Because at the beginning, you'll know that the puzzles are mainly revolve around light and your perspective of that light. So. And now I'm getting to the point where things are literally being turned upside down because it starts messing with gravity.
We're in the same spot. You're at. I can say one word: pendulum.
Holy crap! It's so hard. Like, it's so hard. And the thing is, like, it's games like this and Fisherman's Tale. Like, when I actually think about how they were made, it actually hurts my brain. And I don't know how the developers pull these things off, because it's like living in an upside down world, putting these things together. So hats off to CodeSync again. But looking forward to playing more of that.
It's probably worth mentioning. Like, when you pass I mean, not to give too much away, but like when you get to pass something through a mirror, like that is a really cool feeling. So there's this game. The thing I like about this game the most, and I'm so glad, like you said, Mike, to have them as a sponsor for the show is really nice. Simply because the game deserves the highlight, because the kind of build up, the curve, the learning curve, let's say, in the puzzle design is really fair. Like, I find it's really, really fair, except for the pendulum bit where I had to stop. And now that's my that's punctuated my second half. And it's so funny because the chat was saying that to me as well. They're like, just wait till you get to the pendulum. If you think this is easy, just wait. And I'm still stuck at it. But no spoilers. We'll just struggle together and race to the finish there, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking forward to playing more of that, definitely. Hopefully I'll get time this week. But the first bit of quick news this week is about Beat Saber. And we mentioned this on our E3 special episode of the podcast last week. We mentioned that Beat Saber has a new track back out, which is Imagine Dragons. We didn't expect this. And Nathan, I know you predicted that it was going to be like Marshmallow or something like that, right? But we didn't get Marshmallow. I think Marshmallow would be an awesome track pack, by the way. So it was a solid suggestion. But what we completely forgot to mention on that show was that Beat Saber are working on 360 levels for the Oculus Quest. So if you can imagine playing Beat Saber and rotating in your play space 360 and blocks are coming at you from all different angles, that's basically how it's going to work. Now, they've been demoing this at E3. Did you get to try this, Nathan?
Yes.
Okay, I'm interested.
Well, am I allowed to?
Yeah, sure. We should talk about this now then, I guess.
Okay.
So, yeah, tell us about your experience with these 360 levels, because I don't think anyone outside of E3 has played them, right?
Yeah.
No, they had a demo of this 360 game mode, and they had 2 songs from Imagine Dragons. I don't know, how many songs does the music pack have?
I think
Is
it's
it
like
the whole album?
no, it's like 9 or 10 tracks, I think.
Yeah, it's about that.
Yeah.
But from a specific album, or from all kinds of albums?
I think it's from all kinds of Imagine Dragon albums, yeah.
Like a mixed up thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So yeah, first of all, they call it 360 gameplay, but honestly, it's not really 360 gameplay. I tried it; it's more like 180 in a way. At least in one of the tracks, I wasn't spinning around like crazy all the way around.
Isn't that the name of the technology though? Because I think they're just laying the name down to say we're going there, but maybe the current release isn't gonna do the full gamut just yet. Maybe they're kind of stepping in. That's my guess in terms of the name.
Yeah, but it's possible. I mean,
Yeah,
and it works. It works really well.
Rowdy?
It's 10 songs, by the way.
10
Nice.
songs. Yeah. So did you play this demo on Quest or PC?
They had it on Quest. I don't think you could play it on Rift S. Plus, Rift S is a cable. So, I mean, in that sense, it's going to be an issue. I think this is great for standalone, but the moment you have a cabled headset, it's not that handy to, well, play. Or if you have a long cable, maybe, but you got to kind of work around that. But so what it is it starts off like a normal Beat Saber track where it's front facing, and there is like this little like laser above you. It's like a compass, and every time it moves to other places, you can see that bright light pointing another way, so you know where you have to look next. And then all these blocks start to come in different, come from different angles, and it's definitely feeling new, fresh. Like you could play all the tracks again and just have a total different experience. And since they are moving, they have like different order now. So it plays totally fresh. It's super weird. The first time you're playing it, you're like, what is going on here? Like the first I sucked so bad at it. I was like, I don't know how to do this. But then after practicing a bit, it was super fun. But it's just so satisfying to because you slowly turn, and it also mixes up with those Imagine Dragons tracks. But I do think some people are going to say like, hey, I just prefer the classic one, and some people are going to like the new one. So yeah, it's gonna divide like the community a little bit, I think. But yeah, it came at the right moment, I think, because Beat Saber, honestly, yeah, you can release tracks all the time, and that's fun. But after a while, people are going to be like, yeah, well, can you maybe do something else gameplay wise? So I think it's a good sign that they are still able to innovate on that sense as well.
Yeah, I think so. And like a lot of people were really excited about the announcement as well. But interestingly, you made a really good point, and that is that they've said that the 360 levels will be coming to Quest because it's standalone and there is no wires, but it won't be coming to PC or PSVR, and they'll likely get 120-degree levels. And this is purely down to the wire, and they've said it's a safety issue and they don't want people getting tangled up with the cable. Of course, this is just an experiment right now, and this is what they're saying right now. This could all be subject to change. But I think the community have kind of been a bit upset that if they've been on PC from the beginning and now Quest is getting kind of like this additional exclusive that they won't be able to play in 360, even if you have a 360 room scale setup.
I think it's a good excuse to make, but I don't know. Like there are so many other games that are also 360 gameplay. So what is the difference in that?
Exactly.
I mean, a cable. If you have let's say if you have a cable that has some stretch to it, then you can play this. It's cool.
Yeah. And I think certainly if you're a VR veteran, you've learned to deal with the cable, right? You've learned to deal with the umbilical, for all these years. So it should be something we should be able to play on PC.
Or 4 cables. Typically when I'm playing, because I've got a sub-pack cable, headset cable, the VR headset. So I meant headset, these guys. And what's the last one? I can't remember. Usually 4 though. So I'm not like Nathy. Nathy, if you've seen Nathy's cables after he's played, it's like he is a cable destroyer. So maybe it was just thinking of people like you, Nathy, spinning around and destroying their cables.
Maybe. But yeah, hopefully we'll hear more about this soon. But I'm super intrigued, and I like the fact that they're trying to mix up the gameplay a little bit, keep it refreshing, and interesting to play. So hats off to the team there. So let's move on to the next bit of quick news, which is the HTC Vive Cosmos, because we had an interesting little tease from HTC this week about their upcoming new Vive headset, the Vive Cosmos. And they tweeted saying that they're sending out Cosmos units to developers this week, and they'll have more information to share next week. So, if you want to stick around for that, make sure you share, follow them on their social media platforms. But this could finally mean that we're going to get more information about the specs, the price, the release date. And I think right now, it feels like this is badly needed from HTC. We've had big players in the market screaming loud and clear, Oculus and Valve as well. But HTC have been very quiet. So I welcome some more news from HTC about what they're going to bring to the table. Because what we do know so far is that it's going to be a headset that features inside-out trackings. It's got newly designed controllers, which was a big criticism of the original Vive. And that potentially it could be a hybrid headset that could be connected to a PC and used on the go as a mobile device. So yeah, definitely interested in hearing more about HTC and what their plans are for the Cosmos. But what do you guys think about this? Are you sort of interested in this headset?
It's been a bit quiet in general around them, like not only regarding to the HTC Vive Cosmos, but like all of the other stuff that they're doing as well. They're still running 5-port, but even there, I don't get that much like I don't know, buzz around it or anything. It's been a
silent social media, right? I mean, usually they were super active, but I don't know what they're doing.
Where's the va-va-voom? Where's the trailers? Where's the kind of hype material that usually is? It just doesn't seem like they would need that much of a marketing budget to put something together, even reusing old material, just to kind of let people know this little train is coming.
Did in the past, right?
I'm just curious how it's gonna differentiate itself and how it's gonna land now after everything else that's landed with Index and with Quest and Rift S now in the market. It's kind of an interesting one.
I do think if they use certain things from the Vive Focus, this could be a great headset, because you do need to realize that the Vive Focus came out a year before the Oculus Quest, and this was a standalone headset that did exactly the same thing, although it was for developers, of course, but it did the same thing. So I'm not saying they had a head start, but they can use that, what they learned from that, to build this new headset.
And especially if it's like, a hybrid of both, because I know and we'll touch more on this later with the Quest, but there is a dedicated group of people out there that own Quests that also want to connect it to a PC to play PC games. And it does seem that there is a market for a headset that can do both standalone and PC VR. Yeah. So if they can really nail that, then I think they've got a unique concept that is going to be the only one on the market that can really deliver it in a proper way. Because obviously with the Quest, which again we'll touch on more later, you have to sideload these applications. They're not supported officially.
This is a really weird fork in the road for me, actually, not just considering this, Mike, because last time I was excited for a Vive setup, the HTC Vive, right? And when that launched, super excited for it. Box was amazing, like Christmas, open it up, 100 pieces. But now we've got two different tracks, right? HTC Cosmos, and we've got the Valve Index. So it's a bit like that's kind of shifted. So I don't know, as much as I liked my HTC Vive, I don't really have any either animosity or favor pointed at this headset. It's kind of like a new entrant, actually.
Yeah, exactly. And like I touched on with the HP Reverb, if they do use that lovely resolution 2160 by 2160, it will actually be a higher resolution than the Index. So again, that could be the headset of choice for sim enthusiasts. And also because of the controller design, looking more like touch controllers, it could be the general purpose gaming headset that we want. But I guess the price point is going to be the real interesting part, because, with the Rift S, and, although there's been plenty of criticism about that headset, I totally understand from the community, it is at an amazing price point at $399. That's very hard to beat.
I think what we have now is that it's not really like a one size fits all. There's like so much choice and so much headsets that are out there right now that people kind of need to like decide like what is it that I really like most, or what do I really want to do, and just go for that kind of headset. And if that is the HTC Vive Focus, or that's the Oculus Quest, or the Rift S, or the Valve Index, I mean, so much stuff going on. Or if you like flight simulators, you got Pimax, you got the HP Reverb, you got so many stuff out there. So
I mean, you do need to realize that Facebook is the only one in this arena at the moment that can sell headsets with a loss, because the Quest, if you would really put the real price tag on it, it would be $400, and it's the same with the S. So for HTC, like the Vive Focus is super expensive for people, but that's because they don't have the luxury to do that. I think if this headset runs Steam, I think that would be a very good one, because then you can still play all those games, because then they could convert all those games to this headset. And if it's a hybrid, then that would be great. If they start with Vive part only, I don't know about that. If they just allow all the platforms, then that would be amazing.
Yeah, but I mean, Facebook is not going to allow that. I think that other headsets will start running on Oculus platforms. I think that's a bridge too far.
If it runs on Steam and it runs on Viveport Infinity, then you can also hack into the Oculus system and play those games too.
True.
I'm sure, just like we've seen with Quest, that there'll be a dedicated hardcore community out there that will make Revive happen on mobile as well. You know, it happens. And what we saw with the Quest was really unbelievable. Like, I never predicted that we would have PC VR streaming options, custom Beat Saber tracks. I just didn't think those things would be possible. And
I'm so happy that it's out there. If it was all like super closed, like I support an open platform at any time. You know, exclusivity has its, momentum, and it's sometimes great to have, but open platform in that sense, and the community actually making that available for everyone, it's awesome.
It's great. Yeah, of course. I was talking more about like native support, of course. Of course. Natively supporting a Steam VR, that would be amazing, of course, because you don't need to do all that other stuff.
It's kind of interesting, because if you read the book The History of the Future by is it Blake J. Harris, I believe his name is. I think I got that right. Originally, Oculus did want to allow Vive to work with the Oculus Store. That was on their roadmap, and it was only later on through the acquisition and everything that changed. But also there was also kickback from Valve as well about that. So it wasn't just on the Oculus side that happened. So just be aware of that. It wasn't just Oculus.
But honestly, here at E3, sorry. Go on. Yeah. So here at E3, there were some like Vive Cosmos rumors going around. There were some people here from HTC too. I was asking them about it. They were just giggling.
Yeah, like I'm sure, by this tweet that they're going to be announcing more information this week. So you will probably get like a fancy trailer and all the specs that we want.
Yeah, what I just hope is that they announce it the right way. I think a part of what they sometimes fail at is the marketing and not really the hardware itself. It's more like, for who is this headset and what does it do and what, like, you know what I mean? What market? Because with them, you never really know where you're going.
No, I do agree. And certainly with the Vive Pro, the marketing was very confusing, because although it was a business headset, they had a lot of gaming in the trailer. Whereas I think this device, from what I've seen of it, is very much a gaming headset. If you look at the design of the controllers, it very much looks like a gaming centered headset. So I'm excited for it. Looking forward to hearing more news. Obviously, if we do get more news, discuss it on next week's show. So
I had a question for Nathan, market-wise, because with this headset, he mentioned obviously the kind of Viveport Steam side to like the Asian market, right? Aren't they blocked from Steam? So like, what is their content library that this would then allow? If we're thinking about this,
you can access Steam in Asia, but of course it's moderated. But most headsets in Asia are running on Viveport. Viveport is the largest platform there. I don't know the exact numbers, but they were super high. And they have like all these headsets everywhere in arcades, and they all run on Viveport. Asian people love Viveport because on Viveport you have European and American games that come their way. So for them, it's like, They have all the games, and they of course have a lot of Asian games on there too. I mean, they have their own specific stuff that they like as well. So Viveport is a great success in China, and I do think Viveport Infinity is getting better nowadays. All the games that launch on Steam or Oculus Home are also on Viveport Infinity. There are still a few that they can't get, but the more users they have, the more power they have to get all the developers on board.
I just find it really interesting that we I think you only recognize it once you get into VR and you're like, oh, look at all this VR content I have. And then you recognize that, like, you pull the curtain back, there's literally a whole nother world the other side with VR content coming. And oftentimes it's a year or 2 years before that content comes and reaches us. Some of it never comes this way. And I know that the same is true in reverse, but there's actually quite a bit there that, like, you see dropping on Steam. You're like, this is quite polished. Why didn't I hear anything about this? And it just comes there all of a sudden one day.
A subscription service in the end has so much potential. It has so much potential.
Yeah, agree.
I do agree, and I think although I've not been particularly interested in Viveport personally, but if I was a brand newcomer to VR and you just want to taste everything, then that's the best way to do it. You get access to everything, and now because it is called Infinity, because you can play an infinite amount of games with your subscription, it just makes sense. So if you are new, and maybe we'll see that big push for that service with the Cosmos. But yeah, I think it's very interesting. We've got some interesting times ahead. We've already got the big sort of clash of Oculus and Valve. The Valve Index is coming like literally in a matter of weeks now. And then with HTC thrown into the mix as well, it's going to be very interesting indeed. So looking forward to hearing more about that next week. So the last bit of quick news this week is about Falcon Age. This is an awesome game from Outer Loop Games. And this game has been out on the PSVR for a few months now. You guys got to play it at PAX in Boston. And I think, Nathan, you did like a little interview with the developer of the game. I think you did as well, actually, Zim.
I did, yeah. We both caught him at different times in his, I was going to say his bedroom, but his hotel room.
Yeah, really nice guy, nice guy. And it's a really interesting and unique concept for a VR game. You have this like special bond with this Falcon that, you have to work together throughout the game to accomplish your goals. And it's great to hear that the game is actually coming to PC VR headsets. But this is the interesting part. It's coming via the Epic Games Store.
Oh, Jesus.
Wow. It's starting already. I told you. It's going to start slowly. And it's going to get even bigger.
It is. And it is interesting. And, I can understand the reasoning behind going and choosing that store, because developers get a bigger cut of the profits there. So it's more enticing for them to release their game on that store. And I completely understand and support that if a developer wants to release it there to get that bit of extra money, especially if they're an indie and making VR games. You need to get every bit of money you possibly can so you can fund your next game. So I support that. But yeah, it's joining up the lineup with Subnautica and Trover Saves the Universe. Both are out on the Epic Games Store and both can be played in VR with any PC VR headset. We don't have any exact release date about Falcon Age, but I think it's great news that PC players will be able to experience this one, because I've had it on my PSVR since like launch and I still haven't played it yet. So I guess this is a good opportunity to say, okay, I'll just wait and play it on PC when it comes out.
So this is an Epic exclusive then?
Epic Games exclusive, yeah.
But it's like someone has to start building that library there. So I think it's, if you're a developer and you get the opportunity to do that, then you're one of the first ones, and this library only grows from there. As I said, I think there is serious competition from everyone in the market at the moment.
Yeah, agreed. Just quickly, like, what did you guys think of Falcon Age? Because I know that Zim kind of had mixed feelings about it. Like, there were some elements that you really enjoyed, but there were some bits that kind of soured the experience.
Yeah, I think my net opinion is it's still a game you're going to enjoy having played, is what I'll say. But the flow of the game was probably my number one concern. So there's bits of the game that are really enjoyable, and then there's like a desert, and then like the ending in particular, and I won't give any specific things away, but like some of the level design at the end is a bit like, God, that's like a 1990s Quake level, that it's just boxes everywhere. It's like, so there's some bits that are wholly unsatisfying. And I think that the biggest shame of the thing is you just don't get enough time with your bird. Like in a game that touts you're going to build a bond with this animal, you don't get enough of that. That was my main thing. But it looks great. It plays well. There's a lot of design in the game. It's lovely. The sound is good. The art style, the lighting. So you'll have a good time.
Yeah, and that was one of the things about this game that really caught my eye. It was all the GIFs that the developers were posting on Twitter about these really cute interactions with the bird. Like, like he was like doing little skateboard tricks and like he had a little top hat on. It was just like so adorable that it made me really like the look of this game. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing it on PC. I'd love to know in the chat as well if you're looking forward to playing this from the PC as well.
I actually met him here. I saw him walking around. I think he was demoing the PC version here.
That's great. Yeah. That's really great. So that is all the quick news that we've got this week. So let's hand it over to Zim, find out what games are releasing next week that you should be or maybe shouldn't be.
That means it's Zim time. Excellent.
Zim time.
So this is really scary, lads. This is scary. We're going into, of my 3 selections for the week, 2 of them are things that you might even call girly games. Now, one of them we touched on a little bit earlier, and this is Garden of the Sea by Neat. So this just launched, and I wanted, although we touched on it in our last podcast, it's just launched. You can get access to the early access edition. It's about £5, so well worth kind of dipping your toes into if you're interested. And, it landed the 10th of June. So I'm really interested in this one. I wanted to describe it as best I could. So I think... I would describe this game as a hardcore, punishing, sometimes over-the-top, modern-day, grit-filled, action-packed, relaxing on an island garden simulator.
Wow, I like.
So you're basically stuck on this small island, and you're able to grow your garden, nurture local creatures, interact with them. You kind of shape the world that you're in. This is, I think they called it, what do they call it? Like bloody early access anyway. Something that's
early access.
Early access. So for a $5 you get entry to that, and it's available there for you on Steam. So I think it's one of those that if you like the kind of shape of the game and the look of it, and you're looking for something that's a little bit chillaxed, I'd say that's definitely the way to go. Go feed the birds, listen to the ocean, and check out.
It sounds like a light version of Animal Crossing in VR.
Yep.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. It's a really good point.
I would love to have a game like that in VR.
Yeah.
Someone just said the best thing I've heard in chat about this shirt. I know it's a little wild. Someone said, did Zim's shirt come with an IPD? It's like an IPD test, I think. It's like those lines that you get at the start. For our audio listeners, I'm wearing a bit of as usual, a cycling jersey with a bit of a swirl pattern to it.
Zim merch.
That's it. So, second slightly girly game, and I think Nathy's played this one, called Luna. This one was out on PC before. He's nodding his head there. So Luna is, again, as I said, it's a little bit of it's a softer style game, and apologies if anyone takes any offense to me calling it a girly game. What I mean is that it's a little bit less guns and gore and a little bit more kind of on the visuals. And this is basically a VR terrarium. I remember playing this, and I don't know if it was just early days on the PC that I played it. Maybe I played an early access version, because I remember not liking it. But this has essentially got a real unique kind of serenity to it. And the visuals of the game, it really looks like it was like drawn on like with watercolor and colored pencil, if I was to describe it. So when I'm seeing this again, and this is now landing for PSVR, it's landing for a price tag of just shy of £12. So I think it's another one of these things now on a different platform to the previous one, Garden of the Sea, which is PC VR. Luna dropping on PSVR now, I think is one that not only the studio was very, very pleased with, it's got quite a bit of visual variety in terms of what you can see even running in the trailer. So players are expected to untangle this bird's memories, reveal plants and animals it's encountered before. And I suppose my frustration with the game that I had was that it was like too slow paced, and I think I was probably playing it tired, which is never a good combination. So this is definitely one that I plan to revisit. But I'm really curious, Nathan, what were your thoughts of Luna when you got to play this?
Yeah, it's as you said, it's very slow paced. It has some puzzles that are not super hard to solve. It's more about it's also like a relaxation thing. I felt like it's artistic. It has some beautiful soundtracks, and it doesn't, like, it tells the story through the visuals. And I don't know, how long does it take to... I think I finished the whole thing. I uploaded the whole thing on my channel. So if you want to kind of like see what it's all about, then watch it. It's hard to explain, but it's for a specific audience for sure. It's like if you like art, if you like to watch art, if you like to experience art, this is something to check out.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Well said. Lads, did either of you try Luna as well?
I'm getting some vibes that I have played this game, but because I can't see the trailer, I'm not quite sure, so I'm just going to not comment. Making a fool of myself.
I've seen the trailer, and I know the videos of it as well, but I haven't played it. It's more like a movie-like experience.
Yeah, it reminds me of like going through a tilt brush or like one of those Oculus Studios experiences.
Mm-hmm.
There's the specific one I'm thinking of with a mother and an astronaut or a writer, and I can't remember the name of it.
I know that Lisa Koshy does a voice in it.
Oh, really? Does she?
Yeah.
Oh, right, cool. So there you go. So the third one, this one is not in the same genre of game, whatsoever. Landing on the 20th of June, we have, and please cue the Cantina band for this one. Dun, 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 dun. I'm not going to pretend I can do that theme. We have Vader Immortal, the long-awaited Vader Immortal, finally coming to Oculus Rift. Now, I don't know, I'm sure you can find a way to jailbreak that one and play it on a different headset, but Rift owners have been waiting for this. I'm certainly looking forward to it, having just beaten Vader Immortal earlier this week, looking at the upscaled visuals and seeing how they exchange that. I mean, with a lab like ILMX Lab behind this, that kind of studio, being able to step into the this galaxy far, far away is definitely something that I'm keen on comparing to what we got on Quest. But I have to say, I had some very funny Quest bugs. There's a part in the game which is showing in the trailer where you're climbing up a ladder, and this robot is helping you out. I forget the robot's name, but she's helping you up the ladder. And the robot lifted me up successfully, but then successfully held onto my hand permanently and shoved me into a door, so that I literally, it was a game-breaking bug. I could not continue, and the robot was getting irritated with me that I wouldn't go down the way and pull up a handle, and I'm like, let my hand go, woman, and I had to reboot the headset to get the app to run properly and reload my save file. Lost, I don't know, 2 minutes of gameplay.
Limbo.
So I actually had one too.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, it's you go into an elevator and yeah, come into the elevator. So I was standing in the elevator. It was like, okay, so are we going up or down now? And he's like, come into the elevator. I'm like, but I'm in the... Come into the elevator. Okay, well, maybe I should restart this now.
Yeah. So there are, but the thing is, I guess I always like those little bugs, especially when it comes from a really good studio, because you're kind of like, haha, you're human too. But anyway, if you've been waiting for Vader Immortal, landing 20th, it's let's suppose at the moment I don't know what the price is going to be there. I think it's going to be similar. So it was $7.99 in pounds and about $10. So I think I would say that's fair for what you get. And there are some good moments, and there's some really good voice acting, and I think we've all unanimously really enjoyed the title. Mike, you said it was top for you of the year, was it?
So it's actually taken second place now. It's only been trumped by Blood and Truth. But I think the price is totally fair for what you get. It is relatively short, 45 minutes to an hour. But if you're a Star Wars fan, this is like a must buy. You are going to love this so much. And personally, it's been 2 or 3 weeks since I played it on Quest. So I'm actually really looking forward to playing it again on Rift, just to see what the upgraded visuals look like.
And did you play the lightsaber dojo bit? Because I haven't touched that yet. And that's the part where you can kind of play as much as you like.
Yeah, so I've played a bit of it. So basically, depending on your ranking, you can unlock different sabers and different environments. And I'm kind of intrigued how this is going to play out on Rift or PC VR headsets in general, because of the wire, like we were talking about earlier with 360 movement. Because in the lightsaber dojo, you have to move around 360 a lot, because the little remotes, as you can imagine from the Luke's lightsaber training in the A New Hope, they're firing at you 360, and if you get hit once, then you lose a little medal, and that'll prevent you from unlocking sabers and stuff. So I think it's going to be more of a challenge to play this on PC, unless you've got like a wireless module like the
they get weaker. Like we talk about it like it's a weakness now, and it is. Like standalone has...
Yeah. It does have a slight advantage. So yeah, I'm going to be playing through it again, definitely, and I'll try out the Lightsaber Dojo.
On the ground.
Yeah, I don't know. It's all good. Anyway, so if you are looking for a tale of a boy named Luke and his dog named Wookiee, then do check out Vader Immortal.
It's kind of funny. Like I just had this vision in my mind of that iconic scene from Empire Strikes Back where the AT-AT is kind of like falling down, and that's basically what you're going to be like with the cable wrapped around your legs playing Vader Immortal Loco the Dojo.
That is freaking amazing. All right, and
I actually met it, by the way.
Oh, you met a Wookiee?
Oh.
Nathan's flashing a picture from E3. He's standing next to a Wookiee that's easily a third taller than him in terms of body size. That is a big Wookiee.
He looks like he smells like wet dog hair. Does he smell like that?
I didn't. It's kind of rude to smell a Wookiee if you...
True.
For the first time,
Okay.
You don't want to upset a Wookiee, that's for sure.
Gotta let the Wookiee win, I guess. A couple of other quick announcements. So Journey of the Gods is also landing on PC. If you were, pining at that on Quest. So any Rift S owners out there who are like, I need something, that's a pretty good looking little game. I haven't beaten it yet. Any of you guys beat Journey of the Gods yet?
Yeah, I did. And I thought it was okay. I thought it was, it was all right. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. It got a bit repetitive. There were some things they really tried to do to mix up the gameplay elements between the different levels, and they didn't quite execute that as well as I thought they could have done. But in terms of the art style, it looks like Zelda in VR. It kind of plays like Zelda in VR, which is amazing. Yeah. But yeah, I just thought overall the complete package, it was kind of just, it was okay to good.
Yeah. I'm kind of getting that. About playing it, it seems kind of like worthwhile playing, the lights and the colors and the weapons. How long did it take you? Because I'm about 2.5 hours through.
Yeah, I think it was about 5 hours.
Okay.
And it does have a satisfying payoff at the end, and the God modes are really cool, and they use VR in a very clever way. You get that, you look down and the world is like a toy box all of a sudden. So they did some amazing things. Like, put it this way, if they made a sequel to this game, I would be very excited about it, because hopefully they could iron out some of the things that weren't so great and make it a really stellar game.
And Nathan,
or if Oculus gives them a bigger bag of money, they could make Left 4 Dead VR.
Yeah.
I'd love to look into this treasure trove of Oculus's warehouse of bags of money for developers.
That's for Half-Life 3.
So it is kind of interesting that Turtle Rock are making a Left 4 Dead game called Back 4 Blood. So because they have dipped their toes into VR, it would be amazing if they added some sort of VR support to that, but I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'd love it.
I've had a dinner with the community manager a couple of days ago, and we were talking about their new game, but there's no sign of VR.
Yeah,
no.
Sadly.
Yeah,
and it's kind
I backed them. I was like,
please, yeah. No. But out of the two games, I preferred actually. What was the other one? Face Your Fears 2. I thought that was really great. I had an amazing time with that game. I do think they're a great studio.
I need to definitely. I haven't tackled that one yet. You reminded me now. I'm gonna have to go do that this week.
I'm surprised actually, because that was one of the, we were both very excited about it after OC5.
And then I think it was because you and Rowdy got confused, and it was like, there's two branches, and so I dipped into it for kind of a taster, and then I backed off of it. I was like, I'll leave it and I'll wait a week or two. That's why I tend to do that. It's like wine; it gets better with age. I had one final thing. I would be remiss if I didn't say this to all of my fans out there, not my fans, but the fans of Firewall, that the latest patch finally fixed the multiplayer matching that has been broken for about 4 weeks since they dropped the latest content. So I want to thank First Content Entertainment for finally giving me back my baby. It is such an amazing game for me. It's still top dog, and my God, you will find me playing more Firewall this week for sure, because the gameplay is amazing. There you go. That's
what did then say after you got this fix?
Say that again.
And what do you then say after it got fixed?
Thank you, Papa Frank.
Oh, thank you, Papa Frank.
So thank you, Frank, for this upcoming new game you have.
Yeah, Solaris. Yeah, definitely looking forward to hearing more about that game. Maybe we can tie Frank down when we see him at an event sometime and get some scoops from him.
So that's our releases done for the week. And
awesome.
Back to you in the green room, Mike.
Awesome. So just quickly, I just want to mention as well that Face Your Fears 2, they also launched a little update this week that you can just play the fears now. They had a lot of community backlash saying that they didn't like the story approach to the game. I personally loved it. I thought it was great. They just wanted to experience the fears. So now you can just jump straight into the fears without actually playing the game at all. So the community asked for it. Turtle Rock gave them to it. So yeah.
There you go. That's nice.
So let's talk about juicy sort of like talking points, because this is huge. This is like being the top of Twitter and the top of Reddit all this week, and it's all been about the Oculus Quest Store rejections, specifically games and apps that have been rejected that aren't going to be on Quest for various different reasons. And this is because Oculus have a curated process for the Quest over the Rift. And we've talked about this previously on the show, but basically now you've got to sort of pitch Oculus your idea for the Quest. They should tell you early days whether it's a goer or not. But a couple of developers that received Quest developer hardware thought that was a green light that their game would be on their store, so started developing their game for their store and then got rejected, which is awful because they've spent a lot of time and effort making a game for Quest that ultimately isn't going to see the light of day. We saw some examples of that, like Make Real with Loco Dojo, Electric Hat Games with To The Top. And then last week we mentioned about Virtual Desktop's VR streaming feature. And again, like when we mentioned Virtual Desktop streaming feature, we kind of said, like the developer was kind of a bit concerned about what Oculus was going to think about it anyway. So there was kind of signs that it wasn't going to go down well. And we kind of thought this might happen as well. But they did actually say to him, you really need to remove this feature from your app altogether, which he did. But of course, all this combined caused a lot of uproar within the community and people getting upset about it. So I thought it was an interesting topic to talk about and get sort of our opinions on it. One game that sort of now has sort of come back from the breach, and that is Pavlov, because there's been a couple of moments where they've said that it's not going to be on Quest, and now, as of last night, the developer has said it is going to be on Quest. You can play an early access version of it if you sideload it on your Quest, but it will be coming. The full game will be coming eventually. Okay. So let's get your opinions on this first. And again, in the chat, feel free to join in because I'd love to know your opinions on this as well. How do you feel about this whole curated store on Oculus Quest? Because I know, Nathan, you mentioned earlier, you support an open platform. Of course, the Quest isn't that. Same with Rift as well. It kind of is a closed garden in that sense, but it does have access to Steam. So how do you feel about the Quest store in particular?
I think, we talked about this before, what we thought about the curated process. And I think we all agreed back then that the curated store is the way forward because it's so small. But at the same time, we would like to have another store or another something where those kind of experiences that don't cut it or that don't get, that people can just upload. Like, how was it called again for the original?
Oculus Share.
Yeah, exactly. That to have that as a sort of like a wild west of like whatever is on there. It's not curated, it's not monitored, it's not whatever, but that people can do their thing there. And I think that is still like, I'm gonna stick by that point. I still think that the curated store for Oculus Quest is a good way forward, because the majority of people probably that are buying Quest now are looking for a curated experience. And the reasons why certain games get rejected, of course, there's a one-sided store. We don't know the motives behind that because we only hear from the developer. We don't get to hear from Oculus exactly what reasons they are. Maybe they're very valid reasons. Maybe they're reasons because something that the dev can't do, something that the dev don't want to do. We don't know. So it's a very one-sided story. But I do think that a curated experience, a curated store for the Oculus Quest is still the way to go. Mm-hmm. But there needs to be a way to have something that is non-curated.
Mike might already be lined up to touch on this because Mike is a good guy for doing his homework. You all know that. But I don't know if you saw Jason Rubin's 14-tweet string last night but for the first time, the Oculus is normally silent on this stuff. And actually in his new role, it's very interesting to see Jason step out and actually give an account, at least from the Oculus side, admit some faults, touch on some specific titles like the ones that you mentioned, Mike.
Yeah.
And go through that. And I found that to be very much a breath of fresh air in an arena where we've seen mostly just what I'll call the fog of war, like just this stormy overpass and no detail. So it was really great, and I would recommend, I won't show everything, all of it. I'll flick a little bit of it on the screen now for those who are watching the video. But I just thought it would be worth your while, if you're looking for that detail, to go into it. So Mike, you're nodding your head. Do you want to make a comment about this?
Yeah, so I totally agree. And we've mentioned this before on the show about like Oculus having a front person, someone that tackles these issues and is very clear and transparent with the community and gives them an answer, even if it's not the answer that they want, but gives an answer and a justification as to why. And just like you, I thought it was a really great approach from Oculus to say, this is why, and this is what we're doing, and this is what we want. And it was a long thread on Twitter, and like Zim said, I urge you to go check it out. I think someone's pasted the whole thing on Reddit as well. But I've got a little snippet, condensed version of it that I'll read out. This is from Jason Rubin, obviously head of content, soon moving into a different role within Facebook. But he said, I want to clarify our goal for Quest and clear up some misconceptions about our curated process. The VR community must expand and become a viable medium. We believe Quest is the first VR hardware that has the potential to do so. So we're extremely sensitive as to what we present to new VR users. Consumers expect high-quality apps at launch and after, and updates that add flawed experimental features, don't work for some users, or otherwise create a bad experience are not acceptable. This may require a trade-off with features some users like and interests of the broader community. We apologize for falling short with a few devs we sent out Oculus Quest dev kits to before we had settled our creation process. We asked Virtual Desktop to roll back an update, obviously referring to the VR streaming feature, and this feature compromised comfort, safety, and quality to different levels for different users. Let's work together to push VR forward.
I do like what he's saying here, but he doesn't. Of course, he can't do that. But it's also because of the closed ecosystem, of course, that with Virtual Desktop they don't want people to play on Steam. But he's not saying that, of course. But that's also one of the biggest reasons why this got pulled.
Yeah, which I found a really. I think you're right. I think there's reasons why you can't say that. It's kind of written on the wall already. But I also find that if you're going to be open, be open. In other words, say all the reasons, because we all see it. We know it. I mean, we're not Muppets out here.
They promote it. I mean, they support a closed ecosystem themselves, so it's no secret. They can just be open about that.
And a part of the thread that I didn't read out was that apparently they received complaints about that app's feature, and I was like, I don't buy that. But I do understand it. I do get it, because like if you're PlayStation, you're not going to allow an app on your store that allows you to play Xbox games. It's as simple as that. If you put it down to the basics, which that's what it boils down to. Oculus are investing a lot of money in exclusive content, and they want you to try that exclusive content, which is fine. But
I think every dev knows that too, and I think every dev knows how far they can go. But I think in this case, communication is key, right? So I think there was something going wrong there, where you don't know how far you are allowed to go with certain things, and then you try to just test out the waters and see what happens, right?
Yeah, and for me, I get it. If you're a newcomer to VR, you buy a Quest. If you have a bad experience, then that's you kind of done. Yeah. Because I've met so many people, and you guys probably have the same, where you sort of say, they say, oh, what do you do? You could be in an event like E3, for example. What do you do? Oh, I have a VR dedicated channel. Oh, I can't do VR. I just can't stomach it. I get sick. And then you sort of ask why, you sort of delve into why, and then you find out that someone put them on like a VR roller coaster for their first VR experience. Yeah. Don't ever do that, by the way. Don't ever demo VR in roller coasters.
Hang on, my first ever demo was the Oculus roller coaster demo.
I know. But it's not good for newcomers. But I akin it to going overboard with alcohol. Like, I'm sure we've all had an experience in our lives where we've got blind drunk on a certain brand of alcohol. And for me, it was when I was younger. I went crazy on Bacardi, was sick as a dog. Yeah. And now I can't even smell the stuff without it churning my stomach. And the problem is, like, if you have that experience in VR where you feel sick the first time you try it, you'll always associate that sick feeling when you try a VR headset on.
Yeah. I totally get that, and I think with Pavlov that makes sense. This whole story with virtual desktop, that was a total different problem, because those users, like, the thing is, this feature that he added, because you could stream to Steam, you could play Steam games on your Quest. That's what most people who buy the Quest are not looking for, because it's a standalone VR headset. It's not made to do that. It's possible you can do it, but it's better to play it the way it's supposed to be played.
I agree. I back Oculus's move on this for that reason, is that I just wish they would have said, look, I mean, they did to an extent. They said it's for the comfort of these users. And actually, Mike, reading the same thing that Jason had posted about the complaints that came in, that sounds valid, actually, that some Muppet, sorry, you know who you are out there, you know, out there was like, "Dear Oculus, I tried this thing that Reddit told me. It was broken. Can you please have it removed and cut the guy's bollocks off?" But anyway, so, guys out there busting his balls trying to get this stuff working. I got to play with it for the first time this week. I know you guys covered it earlier. I played Pavlov, and actually I was able to get a kill. It took a little bit of doing because there was a little bit of a delay, but all in all, I was like, the thing I was most impressed about for this technology, and thankfully it's available now to sideload, is the resolution. It's like the resolution of that headset is better than any other headset in my house. And if I stream games to it, there's no artifacting. There's no like compression. It's just working, and that's mind-boggling.
So the tweets that Jason Rubin did, were they also in a blog post on the Oculus? Because not everyone is following Jason Rubin. I think most consumers are not on Reddit. Most Quest users, surprise, 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 are not on Reddit. They don't even know what Reddit is. That's for the VR bubble. I wonder if they made this even more, but I don't think they wanted to put it too big on the radar, because this was more relevant to the VR community. Exactly.
Yeah. That's our job anyway. We were the ones with the megaphone to let people know about this thing. And I think that Twitter is the fine platform, because if you ask me, if I see a tweet from Jason Rubin first or an Oculus blog post, frankly, it's the tweet from Jason that I'm going to see before the blog post.
Yeah. And I think it was the fact that they couldn't control the quality of the stream from your PC to the Quest. Yeah. Because it is all dependent on your hardware. If you've got a 5 gigahertz router, you're probably going to have an okay experience, but it's not flawless. But anyway, like, it's kind of interesting that people are up in arms about it, because you don't see the same people up in arms about the PSVR, which also has a very curated store. It's kind of odd. And, although PSVR players do complain about custom Beat Saber tracks, and I can understand that, because they're the only ones that don't have them now, which I get. But obviously they do have this curated store. Sony is very strict on what they allow on their store. And so far, that's been a great experience for everyone. And that's why we keep on touting the PSVR as a great new headset for VR newcomers, because you can guarantee the quality of the games there.
That's also the main reason why I'm saying that I think that the curated store is the way forward, the Oculus Quest, because they are saying, it's the console experience for virtual reality.
Correct.
But you can hear the frustration on their developers, that the communication sometimes doesn't go that well, and it's a shame, because you work so long on a feature that in the end is not going to make it. And then Oculus also has, of course, their reasons. But the thing is, I do think that Oculus, you can sideload, yes, but it's still also something they don't want. Although it's nice to have, but they don't want it. I don't think they want it, because now with virtual desktop, it's like, oh, but then I just, if you block me, I'm just gonna allow people to sideload it. So the problem is not solved. They don't want it on the Quest at all. They don't want it on the Quest. Even sideload-wise, they don't want to have this feature on there.
How much of the pyramid, though, is going to do that? You know what I mean? Like, if you draw a pyramid of consumers, it's going to be a very small percentage. So I think that making the barrier to the experience just beyond the comfort line is going to cut out probably 80%, if not more, probably 90% of the people who are Quest owners. Exactly. It's probably like 95.
I would say so.
And the thing I wanted to debate with you guys, because I think my opinion on Oculus share has maybe changed because of some of the releases over the last year. But I'm really curious where you stand on it, because like originally, right, we had Oculus share back in the DK1 and DK2 days, and you could freely get apps and you could download them. It was kind of backed by Oculus. Then we had the CV1 launch, and when that launched, if you remember, there was kind of like an early access section. I can't remember whatever it was called.
Yeah.
And actually, that died a death because
It did.
because it was pretty rough. Like after a couple of months of decent stuff in there, it turned into tripe. Like it turned into the bad parts of Steam. And then I think what's happened now is that there isn't an obvious solution between, let's give them free reign, like kind of what Steam has turned into, right? And you see what goes on there because of the releases I highlight every so often. And then on the other side, having something as formalized and built in as what we saw with the CV1 launch, which I think as well would be a mistake on Quest. So does Oculus Share actually have a spot in today's world?
Early access
This is like
still
another
exists.
solution. I'm sorry, go ahead, Nathan.
Like early access still exists even on the Quest, but it's up to the developer now to give you access to their demos. But I think what is so important about making a good game is that you have a crowd to test your game on, an actual crowd that knows what VR is or is kind of getting into VR. And right now, I've spoken to so many devs here at E3 that say like, wow, we're so happy that you're testing our game now. Now we can see if it's really good. And I'm like, is there no place where you can? No, there is no place where you can test your games and say like, hey, here are like 100 people that are going to play it and they all give feedback. And now that's what you need in the end. You need different people
You
to
do
test.
have things like itch.io and stuff like that where games get featured on as well. Like Gorn started out that way, and it really took off. So I mean, if your game is really solid, then I still think that if you put it on like a platform like that, people will pick it up. Of course, you need to get community on Twitter to because relying only on itch.io is not gonna go and do it. But there are like some pearls that came out of there though, and eventually it's Steam or Oculus or.
Yeah.
I think Oculus, if Oculus would do it, then they want it to be well hidden because they don't want the consumers to get their hands on it. Because then they, as Mike said, they get maybe a bad experience. So right now there is early access, but as I said, it's very well hidden.
But I do think with the Quest, it's a better method because right now on Rift, like if you're a Rift owner and you go on the store and you go to new releases, like 80% of the stuff on there is absolute garbage, and you don't want that on Quest. Pretty much every game on Quest, it works well, it performs well. You're going to have a good experience regardless of what game you choose, and that's great. And I think the thing is with the Quest, you do have the best of both worlds right now because if you do want to experiment, you could sideload them. Sideloading is relatively easy. Yeah. It takes like 10 minutes of effort, and then once it's set up, it's done, and you can experiment to your heart's content. But I do agree with Zim. Like it's probably like 5% of Quest owners that are actually interested in doing these things.
But I do want.
But what if it grows? Because this will grow, and if let's say it's same with Beat Saber, some people right now think that mods are a part of the Beat Saber game. If people think that this becomes like, oh yeah, but you can also stream, and they think it's a part of the Oculus Quest, then it will be a problem. For now, it's small, but Quest users that are now not that experienced will later on get more and more experience with what they can do with it. So if the group is too big, they're gonna do something against it.
But there's another thing here, right? So we're actually talking of like the two hemispheres. And this is what I like to think about when I think about games washing into these stores, right? You have a ton of gamers who want kind of stuff now, early access. That's why what's what spawned early access. And you have developers, university level developers these days, even teens, developing apps and little indie jams and stuff like that. VR's the new hot thing. There's going to be hundreds, thousands of these titles that are like really interesting, and yet, like Rowdy said, diamonds in the rough are going to pop out of that, and they're going to end up being like Beat Saber. That's going to happen. So, what is the incubation channel for that stuff today? What is it? Because I can tell you, I don't know where to go.
So I would say Reddit and sideloading is your best bet if you want.
Reddit's probably Reddit and Kickstarter and itch, and those are the places I might hear about.
Also something I wanted to touch on. 5% might be a small number now or in the future, but let's not forget that unhappy customers are always the ones that are most vocal. And if you have, for example, 1 million people and 5% of that are unhappy with their purchase, there will still be a lot of people that will be very vocal about how unhappy they are. So
that's true. That's true. And the thing is, we don't know right now how many Quests were sold, but we did get some interesting facts that they've sold $5 million worth in software in the first couple of weeks after release. $5 million
great.
In software. Like, that's great. And like, I think the big takeaway from this is that, they are really healthy numbers, and that if you're a developer, hopefully you're going to be attracted to the fact that you've got this curated store. If you deliver a quality content, that your app is likely going to do well on Quest. So it's worth the extra effort. And I personally have open arms to developers to come and bring their top-notch games to the Quest. Hopefully that happens.
I gotta say something here from a personal side, right? This is the first time in our family budgeting that we've had to say, right, honey, we're gonna agree a Quest budget, and you can go ahead and do that. And that's not for me, that's for my wife. She's like picked up the Imagine Dragons tracks off Beat Saber and stuff. Like, she's a gamer, and we're busy people, and she's a really busy mom. But like, this is the first headset so low friction, and it's allowing that money to reach the devs who need it. And it's really interesting because none of the other headsets in the house have had our attention because they've been too high friction. And this is so good. So I'm not surprised at all at the dollar amount, because even I've bought stuff on the Quest, and I'm whitelisted like you guys, for the content. So it's hard for me to buy stuff on there, but I have. So there you go. It's just it's a great store.
To kind of finish up this subject, the thing is, side loading needs to change, because right now everyone is not everyone, but the people that are interested are side loading. But you're agreeing to this long form that you are a developer, and everyone just fills into something, and they're not a developer. So in the end, you're kind of agreeing to something that you have officially. You're not allowed to be in.
Sorry, are you just for clarity here, Nathan? Are you talking about the onboarding process for the Oculus Developers Program?
Yeah. So basically, you have to register as a developer to enable side loading.
So Oculus now sees that this doesn't work because they're just consumers just filling in like random stuff. Well, this is a system for developers with a company that is like registered. So the moment you agree to this, you're pretty much putting something there that doesn't exist. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. I mean, everyone did it at some point somewhere, but it shows that the system doesn't work. So it needs to change, because this is for developers in the end.
But I do hope that they allow sideloading to continue, because this is like the Oculus Share. This is the experimental zone. People are putting in a lot of effort to do this, so they likely know what they're getting into.
No, I totally agree, but it becomes problematic when you start
it does.
To things that you are not allowed to.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. So yeah, that is the Oculus curation. How we feel about it.
These juicy topics, Mike, every time. It's good. You see us all get just like fired up on it.
Yeah,
I start
great.
to see this lovely look in Rowdy's face, in particular in his eyes. He gets this look of just
yeah,
dismissal,
grit.
He gets rowdy. So let's round up the show then by talking about the VR games and experience that Nathan got to try at E3 this week. I'm super intrigued about what you got to try. Maybe you can tell us about the sort of the list of stuff you got to try and describe it.
If Nathan now goes like, I didn't play any of the VR games.
Didn't have time. Too busy doing meetings.
Well, so first of all, how did you all experience the show? Did you think there was enough VR? Of course, we had the stream with all the games, but I'm sure you have seen some videos of the show floor. What did you think?
It's probably worth punctuating that, actually, to mention that. So for anyone who does regularly watch the show and carefully watches episode by episode, we had a special episode there midweek wrapping up E3, and I thought it was a pretty entertaining cast covering the majority of the kind of best news from there. Of course, I'm like Mike, very interested in what Nathan has to say. I think what we said in that, or one of the comments that I made was, last year was down to like disappointing level, right? 2018 was like not enough. This year is as expected, and I would expect next year to kind of get to another level up because of the interest in 2019 now. And basically what happens, in the back rooms is, hey, can you build me a VR app? Yeah, I'll fund that. Let's go. Let's make this happen. Those kind of business conversations fuel up when you see the kind of spike ups in consumer interest that we saw this year. And
also the quality of the experiences has like clearly improved. If you look at like things like Espire 1, Lone Echo 2, the kind of games that I'm making. It's not gonna. It is something that you look at and you go like, oh man, I really want to try that.
Also some very, like, the ones that have been announced, like a lot of good indies too, of stuff we haven't seen before. A lot of like new businesses joining the adventure. So I think from my perspective, there were enough games that got announced. Maybe there weren't many of those that got demoed on the show floor. As we said, PlayStation wasn't on the floor. Oculus was there. Vive had some kind of presence, but I don't know how and where, and maybe Vive Cosmos, I don't know, maybe. And that's about it. And then some, of course, small indies and other, businesses around the show floor. So Oculus had the biggest presence there with the Quest and the Rift S.
Was it? I didn't see any pictures of that. Like, was it as impressive as their PAX lineup, or was it like a pivot from that?
I think it was as big, but it was different. I thought that they were just going to move all the stuff from PAX but they had a super interactive booth. You could take a photo with Olivia from Lone Echo. You could attack one of the demons from Asgard's Wrath. You could do Beat Saber mixed reality and take your video home. You could interact with Quill, the mouse from Moz. So that's a great way to spin it, where you first get to interact with these characters, take a photo, and then you can also play the game. So it's more of a package deal now if you come to a show and get some more than just like, oh, but I played this demo, but no one can really see what I played. But Beat Saber's like, well, I played this, and this is what it looks like.
Yeah,
super smart.
I thought the most impressive thing that I saw was Quill from Moss. It was basically a hologram, right, on a prop log, and it just looked so adorable. Like, it looked amazing. So I'm very impressed.
They had a contest going on where if you took a photo and you send it to them on Twitter, you could actually win stuff. So you could, for example, win a little Quill statue. They're like super rare. Still don't have one. Dang it.
Polyarc Games, if you're listening, please. Yes. I need Quill in my life. Please send me one.
I absolutely love. They've been doing this since like 2016. The gamification of a convention. I support that 100%. Like, I think that taking your game and promoting it through another kind of game where you got to find this mouse in the convention that you reward them. So smart. It's really cool.
They also had a Beat Saber photo booth, and you could hold two of these like sabers and kind of hit the blocks on the beat. It was just like like TV screens around you, and you could take those sabers home after taking a photo. So there were some things you could win. They didn't have a stage at PAX like they had here at E3, where they really talk about what VR is and what a Rift S means. I do think they could have done that, although E3 is a press event and not really for consumers. It's growing. Facebook Gaming also had a booth where they also had the Oculus Rift S and the Quest. So they had in both they have like two places where you can try stuff, like the show floor, and they were at both show floors, so they spread it. And the Quest and the Rift S had the same amount of space. I thought they were going full on Quest, but in the end they still apparently think that the Rift S is also, and it needs it, of course, but I thought that Quest was going to take the overhand. It didn't. What you could play there, I made a list because I did so much stuff. So
quickly, while you're doing your list, I just want to say about the photo opportunities, particularly the Asgard's Wrath one, because I saw it on the Oculus Instagram, and I was like, this crazy madman, he's like doing this leap with this axe behind his back, and his like legs are full like behind him, and I was like, and then I looked closely, I was like, I know that guy. It's like, that is Talon. That is Talon being Talon. This guy, he works for Oculus or works for Facebook, super enthusiastic, really big muscly guy, hilarious dude, but when he gets into his VR games, like, he goes full ham on it, and like he's got scars on his hands from like smashing stuff up. But he made that amazing photo.
This Talon guy, even if you don't know him, he has so much potential to become the face of Oculus. Just saying, I think. But anyways, at the Oculus booth, you could play Asgard's Wrath, Beat Saber, Moss, Vader Immortal, After the Fall from Vertigo Games, Lone Echo 2, and Phantom. Was kind of weird to, like, I like Phantom, but having people sitting in this booth on a chair, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, it's like, yeah, it gets a little boring in some way. You know, the game is great.
Just to remind people, this is the kayak one, right?
Yeah,
the kayak one. Where
it won some awards though, right? I think it won some awards at the show.
Yes, a lot of awards actually. Yeah. But it's just weird to, like, you want it to sell as an active way, and if people then want to sit down at home, fine. It just looks a little. You have this big room, and you're just sitting in the middle. Like, you could have like smaller.
They should have put a kayak on the floor, right? That would have just made sense.
That's what I thought he was about to say. Like, it's weird because weird in a funny way, but I think you mean weird in a kind of a socially awkward way to have a dude sit in the middle of or lady sit in the middle of a room with a chair, and you know.
It looked a little sad. I don't know.
I get it. Yeah.
But anyways, what I tried is first of all, I tried Lone Echo 2. Amazing, really, really good. They have some, let's say, for the people that played Lone Echo 1, they have some new gameplay features in there that will add up to the experience. Of course, Olivia's back. You play as Jack. There's some aliens involved now, so it's getting a little bit more spiced up.
Did I hear it's meant to be longer?
Yeah, like 50% longer apparently.
That's good.
I think so.
First game wasn't short, so
yeah. First game was quite long.
It definitely felt different than the first one. It's as I said, you know, with aliens, you really get a different.
Yeah, I remember that we said with the first one that the beginning was really good, and then in the middle it dipped a little bit, and then at the end it like picked up the pace again. So maybe they learned from that and like they tried to add like more of that kind of vibe to it.
Like the demo I played, it wasn't the start of the game. It was very like close to the start. I felt like, It's beautiful, you know, visually it's amazing. Audio is super decent. I played it while the devs from Ready at Dawn were watching, and we also spoke afterwards. I was talking to them about like, hey, you know, multiplayer, you know, we have Echo. They're just like, like we can't say anything. Yeah, you know what's gonna happen. But yeah, great, super great. And I don't know if you could do that in the first one, but you can now like tap your visor and have like a light source, so when it's dark you can turn that on.
That wasn't the first one.
Yeah, sorry, are you just bringing a controller up, or are you actually tapping the headset?
It's tapping it, yeah. It's like tapping closely to the headset. I was tapping it all the time, of course.
They used to have that with the DK1, and I'm like, this is like a 600 quid piece of device. Like, I don't want to be hitting it, the electronics inside. I'm just thinking about the circuit board.
You had that in the first game. You had to like bring the controller close and then go like click.
Exactly, because I remember it was like a little, but if this one you're actually hitting the headset, I'm sorry, it's just a little bugbear.
I don't think you have to hit the headset, but just like the motion of like tapping your head. But it's actually a mechanic in Stormland as well.
You could also like you could look at your head, and you had like a torch to kind of blow certain bolts off and kind of open things up. You could, you know, of course, open doors, things like that. But you like I got like I played it twice, so I played 2 hours of it. I played the same demo twice.
Nice.
Because usually, you know, when I want to show it off on my channel, I play it once so I know how to play it and where to look. And I play so many stuff that sometimes I'm like, oh wait, so these are not moves anymore? What are these control? Oh yeah, okay, yeah, we're now on. So you're switching around with headsets all the time. It's like this brain pain you're getting. But yeah, they gave so much away, I would say, for a 40-minute demo. So I'm so happy that they give press more. And you could also skip between scenes if you wanted to do more gameplay. There were like buttons in this demo that said like skip to next part, because press is sometimes so dumb that they just stay in this lobby while there's also some gameplay, you know. And so yeah, no, Lone Echo 2 is like as you expected is going to be a solid title to get. And then I played the Beat Saber 360. We already spoke about that. The Beat Saber team was, of course, there. It was super fun. They said I was good at the game. I don't know how, but I'm very noob at this game. But
they were just being nice.
I was thinking the same thing, but I was like, I'm not going to burst this bubble. But thank you for doing that.
I think so too. Then I also tried Sniper Elite VR on the PlayStation.
Please, how was it? How was the scope?
Okay, listen.
Oh no!
First of all, very early demo. Okay, they're very early in development, so they're looking for people to give some good feedback on this. So you play on the PlayStation VR. You have this aim controller. You can walk around with the thumbstick. You can. It's so weird because Sniper Elite is a third-person title, right? If you played it before, you know it's third person. It has never been in first person. So the moment you're like, wait, this is first person. How the heck, you know? But I started in this I don't know, maybe a French town or something. There were like explosions going on, like planes flying over, super epic. So then I started walking around, could pick up all kinds of guns. I had a sniper rifle. I had also a machine gun, a submachine gun, and I had to snipe down some German soldiers. So what you could do, you could look through the scope, and it was kind of like I've compared it before to Phantom and also Shadow Core, where it kind of snaps to your eye. I think it's the best way to go right now to snipe. So you have to close one eye and then shoot. You could turn on a slow-mo, so you could get the momentum. And then, if you hit them at the right spot, you became the bullet. You flew to the enemy, and then you could see his organs, right? And you see the bullet flying through his organs and see where you're hitting him.
Three kings all over again.
It's so satisfying.
The bullet, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, you became the bullet for a second, and then you watched the German soldier from a distance and see where you. And that was kind of weird because it doesn't make any sense.
Because it sounds like Mario Kart.
Your bullet bill.
Well, the bullet itself, I don't think that was that bad because it takes just a snap. It's super fast, so you don't even feel it. But then the moment you're looking at the soldier and you're kind of in this simulation, you're like, where the heck did I even go? Where am I? So that didn't...
So, sorry, is it like an out-of-body experience where they're kind of taking you out of your character and, you're just looking at him from third person? Oh, okay. Right. And can you see yourself? Can you see your own player character? Or no, it's just the German soldier?
No. And since, if you remember playing it, you're not in the world anymore. You're like the whole world around you is like blue or kind of like simulation. You know, where you're in the slow-mo. So I told them, and this is maybe they can improve on, is just make it like you're still in the same world. So you kind of get the idea like, oh, but I'm still here. Because that kind of felt like a disconnection. As I said, it has a long way to go, but it's very early right now.
Like I see that from a lot of developers that come from a PC gaming title. They don't really understand yet that virtual reality is still all about being immersed. And I think that sometimes there are like, some that they don't make that connect because it works in a PC game. They automatically think, if we port that over to virtual reality because it looks so cool on a PC game. But when you do that in VR, you go like, this is not right. This is just not how it's supposed to be. Like I still think for a VR game, key is immersion. Make sure you don't get drawn out of the experience.
Yeah, it's an ambitious project. I felt like playing with the aim controller was fun, but I had to throw grenades with it too. And you didn't have any hands; you just had the gun. And if you turned it, you could see how many kills you had and stuff like that. But it felt too arcade. I said like this doesn't work, like that. So I wish I could have played it with the moves or with a game. Like they also have a gamepad, by the way. You can do that too. But I feel like I want to play it with two hands. I do think it needs two hands where you can grab things and stuff like that. It's an ambitious project, and I do think they can nail it. They still have a lot of time to, go for it. I had some mixed feelings. I gave them all the feedback they needed, and they appreciated it, of course. And it has. We need a World War II experience, and this could be the one. Rebellion is very good at what they are doing, but for me, it felt like this was a bit too early. They could have, in the end, if they had waited a little longer and then showed it to me, I could have, given them some better. It was hard to, it's a challenging one.
One question.
Love it.
Sorry, one question to touch on there, because we were looking at the trailer, a friend of mine and he's a big Sniper Elite fan. And do they have smooth locomotion, or is it all teleport?
Smooth locomotion, teleportation, everything.
Thank you. Cool. I thought so.
And it was free roam, so you could pick your spot and shoot the enemies from all kinds of sides. Use barrels to shoot.
That is cool. That's cool. That's nice.
It really does sound good. It sounds like if they take your feedback on board, polish it up a bit, this could be a good title.
And they had different difficulties. If you played it on the hardest, you had to play with the wind as well. So
nice.
I know, right? So this is going to be epic for sure. Right now, they just need all the feedback they can have. So if you get the opportunity to play it somewhere on the show floor and you have something good to say about it or something bad about it, then just tell them, because that's how developers, as I said, testing, that's the way to go. So the more people test it, the more they know as well. So I also tried Espire 1. Upload VR crowned this as the best game of the show. It's the same for me. I didn't have a thing to put on the wall, though. Maybe I should get one next year. I didn't give them snow waffles. You know, like snow waffles.
Yeah, that'll do.
What's that? Stormtrooper waffles? Was that what you're saying? That's what I hear.
Stroop waffles.
Yeah, it's like Dutch cookies. I said, like, just put one on the wall and tell it's mine. These developers, by the way, they're from Australia, super humble. They were like, is he gonna like it? You know, they were like, they have a great game on their hands, but they don't completely realize it themselves. I feel like they're like, hopefully, is this good enough? Is it gonna be, you know? And I played the game 3 times. Nowadays I play games like a couple of times to kind of get the hang of it, because this is a title. Espire 1 is a VR stealth game. You can go silent, you can go loud. It's a mix of Metal Gear Solid, GoldenEye, Splinter Cell, exactly. And it's great. It's awesome. What you can do in this title is eliminate your targets in so many creative ways. You can jump at them from above and hit them in the face. You can drag bodies, hide them, you know. But the goal of Espire 1 is that you need to, like, if you finish a level, it tells you how much damage you have done to everything. And the lowest the cost, the better. So it's like, you shot a barrel? Well, that's like 10K. You did this? Well, that's 20K. So the lower the number, the better.
Right.
So you have to kind of do it silently. So I'm happy they did that, because otherwise people would be like, I'm just going to shoot everything and then I finish the game. But you can't, because then your score will be too high, and that's what you don't want.
So are you kind of doing this like on contract, and you're going to get paid a lump sum, and then the damage is what you're taking off of that?
Right.
Yeah. So you will never be able to go on 0, because in the end you have a contract. So that's already a little bit of money. So you're getting paid for this job.
Since we were saying about like immersion, all of that kind of stuff, like if you look about games that have like the most kind of immersion, it's like when you have a gun and you can reload it. I think that's a very immersive kind of feeling. When you have a sword and shield, I also think that is very immersive. And then horror games as well. Like, I think we can all say that it's very immersive.
When you have a spider.
Stealth games is something that is like truly immersive as well, because you need to be quiet the entire time. You need to be sneaking around. And I find it actually surprising that there hasn't been that many actually around there. If you look around,
I'm really curious on that game mechanic, right? The Rowdy's tapping on in terms of sneaking around. Like, how does it deal with vertical height changes? So, as you're ducking, are you ducking in game?
You can duck, but you can also press a button, because I mean, some people are disabled, and if they want to play it, they can press a button. Or if you're just lazy, then you can do it too. Gameplay mechanics are out of this world. Like, it's very creative, very unique. So some things you can do is you have a night vision. Again, same like Lone Echo, where you tap it. Although they did the tapping better than Ready at Dawn, I gotta give him that. So well done. But you could see the enemies in a range, and you could see also security cameras too, because they could spot you. So you can see where the enemies are at, and then make your move if you want. So you can look through walls and stuff like that. You also have a camera on your wrist that you can throw, and then kind of look through this camera in your visor of where they are. And it can make a sound too, so you can lurk them towards it. So you can always throw it wherever you are. It's super handy, of course. You have all kinds of guns. You can say freeze to an enemy, then they freeze, they put their hands up in the air, you grab their gun, you hit them in the face, but of course, they're knocked out. So after around like 5 minutes, they wake up again and sound the alarm. But it depends on how you hit them. So they could get hit hard, and then they are laying on the floor for longer. You also have a tranquilizer gun that you can shoot at them, so they go asleep, and you constantly have to pull the piston because it's like air, air pressure driven.
That's good. That's real good. I like
machine guns too.
Like immersive, like make it more immersive, because it draws you out of the experience if it doesn't do those kind of things. So I like it that they pay attention to those kind of things. We had that as well with Arctica 1, where we were like raving about just the breath of air that is coming out of when you're speaking. It's just because it adds to that extra level in a VR game, and what they're doing is amazing. It sounds absolutely brilliant.
It also, just to take the immersive piece one step further, Rowdy, one thing I've always felt is really important in games, even back from flat days when I was playing that stuff back then, is let players do the thing they can't do in real life. Look at GTA. I can't go beat up I could prostitute in real life, and that would not go well with my life. So allow someone to, like Mike, I'm sure will appreciate, smoking a cigar in Blood and Truth or whatever, and it feels good, like to be able to do that. So like you're getting me excited for this game now, and before I was like, that's got kind of a silly name.
I do find it funny that you first said I could go out and like beat up a prostitute, and that's what I would do, and then you go to Mike, it's like, like smoke a cigar, like whoa, out of this world.
Seems so manly. I'm like the one dad here, right? Yeah.
This one is so good. It's so good, and they worked on it for 2.5 years. They worked really hard on this, and they finally had their momentum at E3 to show it. And they were big fans of this podcast. They were big fans of my channel as well. They said like, it's amazing what you all do. And I got them to commentate on their own games. So like, here's the microphone, tell them everything you want. So I play the game and they tell you everything. It's going to be such a fun video to watch. And they have so many features. You can be so creative. You can crawl through fence. You can jump on the enemy, turn on a slow-mo, and then hit him, or do it super fast. You can climb almost everywhere you want. You can use zip lines to get somewhere. You can also just climb ladders, go under the floor. And you also have, I think this is one of the funniest ones. You have this nightstick. You can poke them, and then they fall down. And then they also, of course,
like a police baton or something. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Like an electric one?
An electric one.
Right.
The funny part is, if another guard sees this person laying on the floor, they wake him up again. So they all start running around again, and you're like kind of screwed. But you can also repair yourself with that, because you're a robot in the end. You're an Espire robot.
Oh, right.
And you can use this thing to repair yourself. The funny part is, if you die, you can take control over another robot. So you can dive into someone else's body and move on.
Awesome. That sounds so great.
Yeah, really.
This game is gonna be so epic. It's the best.
So Espire 1 was your game of the show.
This can it's coming to Quest. It's coming to PC.
Everything.
I didn't try the Quest version. I did hear that the Quest version has a long way to go. I played it on the Rift S. It worked super well. And these guys, seriously, they said like, oh, we're prepared. We have a wide field of view ready for you. We have a smooth camera ready for you.
Amazing.
These guys love you, seriously.
Nice.
Well done. Super humble. I got some lens wipes, by the way, from Espire 1, if anyone is interested.
Yes, please.
That's Espire 1. I also played Battle Wake. We can talk more about that next week, because I have an appointment at Servio's, their office. We're going to play some more. I'm going to play the multiplayer. Here at E3, I played the single player only, but I'm going to play with a dev, so let's just skip that one for now. I also played the Walking Dead experience. It's a bit arcadey, and it's based on the movie. It's not as, as a Spider-Man, or it's Servio's level, but it did feel like for new consumers, and not really for, it's not the most realistic zombie thing out there, but you could just free roam. You could walk around, shoot zombies with all kinds of weapons, play as one of the famous characters from the show, have a little bit of storyline in between. But yeah.
One thing I noticed about this, it's not a multiplayer game, is it?
It is, yeah. You can play it.
Okay, it is. Okay.
There's a little creepy vibe to it as well. But yeah, I do need to play more of it, and I do want to play it with someone else. I don't think it's that fun to play alone.
Yeah. Big question. How good HUD or bad HUD?
You mean if there's anything in your...
Yeah, just stuff hanging off the gun, health. What was your impression of the heads-up display?
There wasn't much in my face. Blood splatters when you hit the zombie with a baton. You could, for example, grab their necks and then kind of hit them real hard, or smack them with guns, like that.
This is not a non-violent episode.
Yeah.
One of the concerns we had when we saw the trailer during our E3 special was that there was a lot of like HUD that was like mounted on the side of the gun, and also like your health was on your wrist. Yep. And I don't know if it's just because like the gameplay was recorded in kind of like a bad way. It looked very zoomed in and cropped, but
your wrist, you could see the health there and stuff like that. And if you got hit too much, then you got this red kind of vibe around you. But not that bad. It's a fun title. If you like Walking Dead, it's gonna be great because you can play with Negan's baseball bat, and you can beat Rick, and you can use his revolver, things like that. So it's good, but it's in the middle somewhere. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yep.
But we'll see. If I play the co-op, maybe it's gonna be even cooler. Who knows? Then I played After the Fall from Vertigo Games.
Yes.
Super decent. Felt like it gave me Arctica 1 vibes. You had all kinds of crazy tools you could like upgrade because it's a zombie shooter. It's a zombie apocalypse kind of like storyline. And what you could do in this game, you could like play, because I played it co-op with one of my Dutch friends. Was kind of fun to just talk in Dutch and do my thing. Couldn't record it sadly, so I don't have any footage. But they had like a system where you could upgrade your guns and also your wrist. So I had like this little missile system on my wrist, and I could just shoot like this, and all these missiles locked onto the zombies and they flew away. Like the physics were crazy good. And it's like Arizona Sunshine, but way faster, super quick. All the things that you're usually kind of annoyed by, like, I need to open a cabinet, but I need to first holster my gun to look into the cabinet. It's now like click, 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 click. You have all that XP coming in. It's like super fast, and you can open doors real slow and kind
of
real fluid experience. Then that's good. Yeah, good flow.
Yeah, and I do feel like this game could have a good live in a location-based arcade as well. It's great. It's awesome.
We thought as well already on the last stream that it was really aimed at like arcades and those kind of things.
Yeah, it felt like that. It's again, it's a good title. I wasn't super blown away by it, but maybe I need to play more. They had some like variation in zombies, and they look really scary. And again, playing it with someone else, I think the fact that we're getting more co-op, that's what we need. Same with Walking Dead, same with Battle Wake. We need more co-op. It's so much fun.
Yeah, agreed.
So yeah, I'm sorry, this is like a nutshell version of everything.
No, that was awesome. I think that was a really good roundup, and I think Zim's going to join me in saying that I'm super hyped for Espire 1. Like I was very excited about it anyway, but even more so now.
You converted me to excited. I wasn't excited for this game originally. I saw it and then I was like interested, and now Nathan's made me excited. So I mean, the thing I love when you get someone, any one of us really, on a showroom floor, comes off of it, you can see the energy coming off of Nathan, like he's gone Super Saiyan. It's so good. I love that.
It's getting better here, okay? So, I also tried Red Pill VR. No one knows what it is, I think.
I heard of it, but no.
It's pretty much, there was this dance experience where you could join with others and dance on the music. How is it called? The Wave?
The Wave, yeah.
Wave. Oh, yeah.
Wave. It's kind of like the Wave, but they are aiming to build dance clubs in VR and let people join, for example, a DJ Chesto or Martin Garrix or Marshmallow from their own house.
Yeah.
And what they did there, they had a large booth, they had a DJ in VR, and they had leap motions everywhere, so he could see his own table. So he was live in this dance club playing, he was making the music. I could see him because it was a multiplayer. And they had dancers too that were mocap that I could see. They were just dancing around, and they could clone them and let them be all kinds of...
Wait. This sounds very much like that final episode from the last season from Black Mirror, right? Exactly what the Miley Cyrus one?
Right. Yeah. Where she embodies like her avatar in VR. Yeah.
But they had these dances. So let's say if you go to an event, to a dance event, and you have dancers on stage, they could be mocapped and then sent to the VR version, and people can they can enjoy the same concert. Plus, you can document it, and you can always go back later. So you can always go to that show a year after it happened and pay a ticket. So this is like a new level of entertainment. So that's a quick shout out to Red Pill VR. Haptics was there. They were showing off their haptic vests in combination with the Vive Focus. So I feel like they're going into the standalone market too now. They upgraded their vests a little bit. They looked a bit more shiny, better. Super popular booth, by the way. Great meeting them again. Proxymat was there. They had some new mats. These are pretty much rubber mats that you can stand on. So like you're in the middle of your play space. I think they are great, especially if you start crouching and you have to. It's like a soft floor.
Yeah.
Super decent, and they are doing really well for themselves. So
yeah, I use their products all the time as well. I use it every day.
Do you have one there, Mike?
Yeah, I can go and grab it.
Yeah, please just show us, because I'm just curious the price for one of these things. I don't know if you know how much. I think it's just like a round mat generally.
I don't know how much are they again.
Oh, this is brilliant, Mike, and it's got a disc in the middle.
Yeah, so it's got a button in the middle and a button at the front. So you got this big yellow button, so it's tactile, so you can feel it under your feet, so you always know when you're in the center of your play space. And then you've got this other tactile button at the front, so you always know what the front of your play space is. And certainly for VR content creators, it's great for knowing you're always in camera. You know what I mean? When you're recording content.
Yeah.
The cool part is, this is going to be a thing in esports soon.
Show it this way, Mike.
It's very thick. It's very soft. So especially like when Nathan said, when you drop down to your knee in some games, very soft, takes all the impact out. So you should definitely hit them up, Zim. I'm surprised you don't have one already.
I actually I need one for my space now. So now I've kind of carved it out. Thank you. That looks really cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Small ones, and the owner told me that they have interest in esports now, because those, like, if you went to Oculus Connect, for example, they don't have really a soft thing, so you will soon see them in the esports area too. Then I tried Senso Glove. Was like a quick 5 minutes, super quick, but they had new gloves with thermals in there on the fingertips, so you could feel like when it was cold and hot and stuff like that. I heard that because Tyrell was helping them out with the marketing, and he told me that Palmer came by. Palmer Lucky was also at E3, and he said, like, yeah, just turn it up a bit more, just go a little bit beyond the boundaries. So he burned his finger in the end. Tyrell was like, oh, if you want to, sure, man, here you go. So he kind of burned his fingertip.
Wow, just burned a billionaire's finger. Well done.
Now this all,
lawsuit coming.
It all sounds super positive, and it was. I think E3 was a big success. Quest was super popular, and also the Rift S a little bit less, but still had a good momentum too. One thing that I do need to say here, and that was concerning. So most developers that I met that showed off demos to me were using an Oculus Rift S, and it failed almost everywhere. It was a mess. It was
really
a mess. There were moments where I saw this video signal twitching,
Yeah.
It's like
artifacts.
Like white for a second. Artifacts, exactly. Yeah. There were moments where I was into the see-through camera again while I was turning around, so I wasn't in VR anymore, trying to find a sweet spot or a wall to kind of get back into my VR thing. And even where the demo just crashed. It just crashed completely. On the Rift S. Also dabs that just used other headsets because of the fact that Rift S is reliable enough. They wanted to, but I only at Oculus it was of course fine, but I feel like they built these rooms in a way where, but it should be an all-round headset. It should almost work anywhere, but it just didn't.
I remember when we went to PAX in Boston, and the guy that created the Oculus booths was very specific about the way that they did it, and that's why you'll notice that the booths were like semi-opaque, but they had patterns on the glass, so it's so the inside-out tracking could work effectively. But I do know a lot of the community are reporting issues with the Rift S, this flicker problem. And also like tracking and disconnect issues. But personally, like the only issue I ever had, and this is a tip out there for if you are having issues with your Rift S, is that go into your USB controller in your devices and just turn off all like the Windows power management settings.
Yeah.
Since then, I've had very few issues with my Rift S.
I've had that on several USB devices as well, Mike, where you'll have a device that is causing problems, and you basically have to go and tell Windows, don't put this thing to sleep, or don't power manage it. I have actually had problems with my Rift S, and I would say that right now my impression of it, although it's probably it is my favorite headset at the moment, because of the clarity and the comfort and stuff, it's a little buggy at the moment. It's like a little bit unreliable. I think that's the word that Nathan was using. And I get the same thing, because like I've had it go completely black, middle of a show, and I'm like, the feck's going on here, and I have to reinsert the HDMI or the USB to get it to wake up again. And I've had that on several occasions now, having owned it only a month. So
at their booth, it was fine. It was solid enough, but I did see those artifacts almost everywhere. There was no, like in Lone Echo and others. I just hope that press doesn't pick up on it. I know what it is, so I'm not gonna shoot down at that. But a press is gonna be like, the game didn't work that well, but it's the hardware in the end. But since they don't know where the problem is, they so that was concerning. And another thing that I thought was concerning is that usually they showed off the Rift itself, but now since it doesn't have an IPD adjuster, they don't adjust it. So they just put people in VR, and that's it. Like I was playing Lone Echo, they didn't ask me about my IPD. So you just play it. So it could be that you have a wrong IPD. You try it there. You're like, I don't know what this is, but I couldn't see sharp. It's so weird. And they should do it for everyone. To like, hey, we slide the IPD to the right spot for you.
You know what I think they should do, actually, because it's now software controlled on some of the headsets now. I think that they should do like what you had at Oculus Connect, where you walk around with an RFID chip in your card. You'd be able to tap it on a station that automatically syncs it to the demo station. I mean, it'd be very simple software to write to basically say, adjust to my IPD. All it is a number. That can easily be stored in an RFID chip. Tap it, job done. And then all my settings are good.
That's a great idea.
I totally agree. So besides that, what else I can tell you is that I went to, you all know I'm a big fan of Tesla. I went to the talk with Elon Musk and Todd Howard. Super fun. It's funny that he announced his own game. Elon Musk developed a game, yes. You can now, or soon, play a racing game in your Tesla while you're charging. And you can use your steering wheel and your pedals to control your car. It's like a Mario Kart experience, and you can play it multiplayer with the other people that are next to you charging as well.
That's awesome. That is amazing.
And people were like screaming, like, Elon, bring Skyrim to the car. I was like, I don't know if that's gonna work, but that was like super fun. It's amazing to hear Elon Musk.
That's like the ultimate simulator. If you could put the Quest on them and like just use the driving wheel and the paddles, like that'd be awesome.
I also watched Jason Rubin talk to Troy Baker about the future of storytelling. I'm not sure if you know, but Troy Baker is the voice of Booker DeWitt in BioShock. So I had another moment like, oh no, it's Troy Baker. And I had a dinner with some people from the industry. I joined along with the Beat Saber team. They were there, and it surprises me. They have a very small team.
Yep.
I think 4 or 5 people that work on Beat Saber run the whole Toko.
Yeah.
The whole Toko. It's impressive. I gotta give him that. It's mind blowing. And also Palmer Luckey was there. Some investors, and who else was there? Oh yeah, the someone from HTC, the chief staff of the chair something at HTC. So everyone from the industry was there, and also the product manager of Oculus too. So there was this mix of so many, awesome companies.
That's great.
I sat next to Palmer Luckey, and he was talking about like he's so creative. He wants to do everything basically. So we've been talking a little bit about the Rift S. Talk about also the whole virtual desktop thing, of course. He was talking about that he's a big fan of Japan, and that he likes to go there a lot, and it was nice to just be together and have it together. And I don't know, we hang there for like 3-4 hours. It felt like it never stopped. It got so late, but it was so much fun.
boring. Like,
No, it's great. So I felt, of course, honored to be in this circle of people. I never thought I would, sit there with some people like that. It's
Legends
weird.
of the VR space, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that and something else I have, and this is a scoop for next week. I have an appointment with Brandon. I'm gonna try Boneworks on the.
Oh, awesome! Nice.
He invited me over to the office. He really wanted me to check it out, so we're gonna try Index and Boneworks.
Nice. Looking forward to your hands-on impressions of that. So that'll be next week on next week's show.
Yes.
Awesome. I think that was a great roundup of what you've been up to in LA. Sounds like you had a great time. If you've got any questions for Nathy about his experience in LA, or any of us about any of the topics that we've discussed today, put them in the chat now, and then we can maybe answer a couple of questions before we round up the show. But just a reminder that this is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show, live streamed every Saturday on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch. You can tune in live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, and 12 midday in Central US. Also check out the audio version. It's available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Anchor. So yeah, let's get into some questions if anyone's got.
We got one from Victor Riddle. He's asking, Nathy, did you get to play Pistol Whip or get any news on what's up with the Respawn Oculus project?
Respawn, that title has not been announced at E3. I'm surprised.
Same.
That
Yeah.
Oculus Rift didn't get many, launches at all. That's concerning once again. Pistol Whip wasn't there, at least not that I know of. But I did hear in the back doors there were a lot of Valve Index demos. But Pistol Whip, I'm not so sure.
All right.
Someone was asking to compare against Arizona Sunshine and The Walking Dead. How would you compare the two?
Arizona Sunshine is more of a realistic simulator, and the other one is more arcadey. But then you can play as your favorite characters, so it's total different experience. It's not the same.
But also that kind of makes sense coming from Servio, says they own VR arcades, right? So
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
There was another question here relating to Lone Echo 2. Do we have any idea when it's coming out?
When I played the demo at the end, it said like soon on Rift.
It's this. Wait. No, I can't remember now.
It must be this year for sure. I think it seems to be ready to go.
I can't remember.
It must be. I mean, Rift S needs titles.
It does.
Out this year.
We got Vader.
It's gonna be 2020. That's gonna be a disaster.
Well, 5 days ago, it was reported that Lone Echo was delayed to Q1 of 2020.
What? No way.
Who's reporting that? What's the source?
Road to VR.
Well, they're pretty reliable.
Yeah.
It's a shame, by the way, you guys weren't here because I went to the 2-Bit Circus. It's an arcade here in LA. It's the best one out here, and they had a World of Tanks tournament. Hologate was sponsoring it, and they gave away HP Reverbs because HP Reverb was the biggest sponsor there. So they're like 5-6 Reverbs laying around there. I said, should we just grab them all now?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were sponsoring it. There was like even one laying around there that you could just look at. I was like, whoa, that's the prize.
I'm still tempted to race with one. There was a question earlier that I thought was a nice maybe wrap up then to finish this one off. It was, Nathy, how did you like LA? I think it's your second time out.
Well, I haven't seen that much of LA, to be honest with you all. I've been running around, like, you need to know, like, I wake up, we leave at like 8, 9, and we have appointments until like 8, 9, and sometimes there's something in between where like we gotta do this too, because someone's like, did you hear about that one party? Or Zim is gonna be jealous. There were so many good parties there. I went to the gaming party, and there were some colleagues of mine there, and they had like a good DJ and had some crazy visuals going on. Facebook gaming party was also there, of course. I'm always surprised they don't serve much food at these parties. Only
that's the problem that we had at OC5. Can you remember I went to SVVR and I almost passed out because I hadn't eaten all day?
Yeah, well, that's what you kind of need to wing with. And the best party that I think was from Shack News. I've never heard of Shack News before until now. It's a website where they write about games. It's like IGN a little bit. Yep. But they had a party in the Mayan. And this is a famous place in LA. It's like a temple. It's like you're in Tomb Raider, but everyone is partying. And they had like Rocket League stations everywhere. They had like a big tournament going on there. You could sit at this giant throne made out of keyboards and mice.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was good.
Super epic. So they had like, gaming parties everywhere.
Dude,
awesome.
Sounds like you had such a blast. So
Yeah.
I'm still trying to compute what happened.
Yeah, I bet. I'm looking forward to definitely hearing your hands-on impressions of Boneworks next week. I'm not actually going to be here next week as it's my birthday next Saturday. So I think Rowdy's going to sort of take the reins as being a host of the show next week. So have fun with that, Rowdy. Good luck with that, dude. So yeah, that's a wrap for this week's show. We've had a jam-packed episode full of news and interesting tidbits. So I hope you've all enjoyed it as well. Thanks for joining us live in the chat on this week's show. We really appreciate you joining us live each week. We hope you have...
Like this video.
Slam a like on this video. We hope you have a great week in VR. We'll be back next week. So tune in then, and bye-bye for now. Take care. See ya.
Bye-bye.